One summer, I was like, I'm going to read Moby Dick. And it was the most torturous summer of my life. I was like, I fucking hate this book, but I made myself finish it because I thought I had to or needed to say I'd read it. It's not enjoyable. I found the writing bad. Hot take, maybe I'll get canceled for this.
He's going to come for you. He's still alive.
For sure going to come for me. Or the whale will. I don't know which one.
Sasha, welcome to One Nightstand.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy to have you here. Were you always a big reader?
Yes, always, since I was very little.
Okay. You talk a little bit about, in the book, about really being into books that were portals to other worlds, like Narnia and A Wrinkle in Time, and sort of always wanting to cross that barrier. Tell me about that.
I didn't have a great childhood. I was bullied really badly, which I talk about in the book as well. I moved around a lot as a kid. I lived on the East Coast till I was 5 and had this kind of idyllic kind of bubble, joy bubble up until that point. And then we moved to Los Angeles and it all burst. And I think it was just the way that my child mind was attempting to deal with and process what was happening to me. And I mean, anyone who loves books knows that they're such an incredible escape.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what those served. It was reading in general, but then reading about these books where there was an escape for the characters within them. And they did walk through closets into these magical worlds. And something about that, I think, as a kid going through struggles that I didn't really understand at the time, it gave me a lot of hope.
Well, the first one I thought we could talk about today of your favorite books is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Something that I think is really fun now that we've been doing this series for a while is when there's overlap in picks. Because cool. I love to hear what resonates with people. That's either different or the same, but we had Celine Song on recently, the director, and she talked about coming to understand Mrs. Bennet in a different way as she got older. Tell me more about your, when you read it for the first time and what you love about it.
I think it's sort of a continuation, or was for me at the time, of that escapism that I loved as a child. And it wasn't magic in this form, but it was just a world that was so other to mine. I grew up reading a lot of authors of that era when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I read a lot of Jane Austen. I read a lot of Edith Wharton. And it felt to me like I could both see myself in these characters and find comparisons and yearn for the things that they yearned for. I was a very lonely person in my late teens and early 20s. I was coming up as an actor in LA. Everyone that I had known had left to go to college except for me, and trying to become an actress at that time, at that age, it was so incredibly isolating. I would have 5 auditions a day, just driving back and forth. It was a very kind of cattle collie existence, and all I would do at night was learn my lines or read scripts. And I went to a lot of movies by myself, and I read a ton. And I think there's something about Jane Austen that feels so incredibly grounded, and so many of her female heroines to me felt so empowering. And yet there still is there's an element that's so escapist to her writing, and almost feels like I just always felt very swept away by her books. And it made the rest of my world just totally disappear. And I was just left in this world that she had created, and I could worry about the problems of her characters and allow my heart to just sort of become one with theirs. And I think that was something I loved so much about Pride and Prejudice, was that it made me feel so much, but it was about things that had nothing to do with me, which both felt it was so invigorating and also such a relief.
Yeah.
So the book was very important to me at the time that I read it.
I mean, you know, people talk about reading for escapism, and I feel like there, you know, sometimes it's just like a beach read and completely like taking your mind off things. Yeah. But like the journey you've had of like them taking you out of yourself and into these other worlds, it's like a really beautiful thing. Like what a like very profound relationship with books you have.
I did. Yeah. They were like, yeah, I really was like in relation to a lot of these books and these authors when I was they were really, I mean, it sounds like so sad and dramatic, but in so many ways, they were like my only friends at the time.
Having recently read your memoirs, like you were going to like a lot of like vintage shopping and auditions, and I know like feeling very isolated. But yeah, what else were you reading at the time? Yeah,
I think that time period in my life was sort of colored by a lot of nostalgia, and I think that was another attempt to just kind of like escape my current reality. So I looked back a lot. You know, I was also living with my dad at the time, who basically like anything created after like 1984, he's like, that's trash. So he was a big influence in that way as well. And I lived in Santa Monica near the Aero Theater. Mm-hmm. So I spent a lot of time in that movie theater by myself, like watching all the movies that they showed. But yeah, I read a lot of Jane Austen, Edith Wharton, John O'Hara. Mm. I read all of Hemingway. I read a lot of Russian novels, which did not help my mood. But I do love Anna Karenina. That is one of my faves. What else did I read at the time? Charles Portis was a really fun one.
You gave yourself an English major.
I fully did. I mean, I do have my dad to thank for that in a big way. I would come home a lot and there would just be like a stack of books on my bed. But yeah, I really didn't read anything new at the time. It was like I guess I sort of like went through the canon a little bit.
Well, I was going to talk about this one a little bit later on, but being of that age and in that moment is making me think of Eve Babitz, who you've picked today, Slow Days, Fast Company. And I'm curious when you read that for the first time to start.
So I actually didn't come upon Eve until later in life. I would say probably like a decade after that. Now I've come into contact with a lot of like pieces and sort of criticism about the fact that she came up at the same time as Joan Didion, and she basically was just like forgotten.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it depends on what side of the aisle you fall on, but many people think like was actually a better writer.
What do you think?
I haven't read enough Joan Didion to be able to like do a one-to-one, because I've read everything Eve Babitz has ever written. So I feel like, and I don't know, I mean, I think they're such different writers.
Completely.
Like, I think, God, like who would that be a similar comparison to? I mean, in many ways, I think it would be sort of like comparing John O'Hara and Hemingway. They're just like, their tone is so intrinsically different.
I took a class in college that was like Fitzgerald and Hemingway, and it was really like pitting them up against each other. That's probably
a better comparison.
No, but I wouldn't have gone there in my head if you hadn't said, and it's like, they're just radically different despite being in conversation with each other.
It's like comparing a stoic to a romantic. It's like, you can't. They're not comparable. But I don't know. I mean, Eve Babitz is maybe my top 2 favorite authors of all time.
Who's the number 1? Reserved for...
I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I couldn't answer the question.
Picking 4 books was like torturous.
I think about it all the time and I don't know. I can't figure it out.
I mean, there are too many. And like while I was making this list, I was texting my manager, who's another huge reader, and we share books all the time. And I was like, oh my God, what about this? What about this? And there were so many authors that I had read that she hadn't. And I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas now. I'm going to buy you like 50 books. And certain authors who I love that she also hadn't heard of. And I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. And then vice versa as well, which is so interesting.
Well, Eve, you read much later, but I do think, as someone who grew up in California and had wonderful adventures and misadventures and all the things that you cover so beautifully in your memoir, I guess, like how do you think about Eve and the girl you were when you were lost, like at that, very going on your cattle calls and reading Jane Austen, and I guess, like how you view yourself and having read her now.
I think there is something... I think that she is a powerful, incredible, entertaining writer for anyone. But I think as someone who grew up in Los Angeles and in Hollywood, there's something about LA, especially when you're young, that is, there's like an essence to that place that is so hard to capture and describe. And it's like both sort of disgusting and horrible and like the most magical place. Like a friend of mine was driving home the other day and left me a message in California, and she was like, the jacaranda trees are blooming and I can smell the jasmine in the air and the sun is hitting just right as it sets, and there's like that moment where you're just like, California, oh my God, like you give me goosebumps. And then you're immediately reminded why it's like a dumpster fire of a place to live. And the seesaw effect of living there can just like give you whiplash. But it's like another planet. It's just the strangest place. And it's such a weird place to grow up and come into your own. And I think there was something about Eve's writing that hit so hard for me when I read it, because it made me feel so seen and understood. And it felt like someone, when you're trying to articulate something and you kind of can't, and they just give it to you in the most succinct way, and you're like, yes, that. And there was something so satisfying and comforting about that. And her writing is just like so amazing and poignant and funny. She's so funny. But yeah, it felt very relatable to me.
I think sometimes if you're from a place and you're kind of like, you don't get it, like, not that you're afraid to mythologize it, but you almost like, I don't know, I feel like you have a weird relationship with like both like the romanticy of it, like the like,
yeah, sure,
because of like all the like the romanticy novels that are out right now. So I'm like, that's not actually a word, that's a phrase, whatever. The romantic nature of Los Angeles, but I think she really plays, like, maintains the mythology while also like poking holes in it in a really like a way that like I think is hard to do without ever sounding cynical and just like, but also being a realist.
For sure. And I think, you know, it's such a like therapy speak thing. I always laugh when my therapist says this to me, but it's so, she's like, two things can be true.
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's like such a truth of life. Yeah. And I think the way Eve writes, she's like, yes, this place is absolutely filled with the scum of the earth, and it can be the most magical place ever.
Do you like reading about old Hollywood?
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah, yeah.
I am a big You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again.
It's a great one.
Girl. But I just like, I think about it all in conversation with Eve.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
John O'Hara wrote a great old Hollywood one that I almost picked called The Big Laugh.
Oh, I haven't read it.
It's very fun.
I feel like I would really like it. Okay, I'm going to stop by McNally anyway after this. So
Great.
Like, let's do it. Contemporary. The next book we can chat about is David Sedaris. We talked Pretty One Day. I know he's huge for you. When did you make it to Sedaris?
Probably my early 20s.
Okay.
And I started reading and listening to him read his books on tape. I've probably read and listened. I've read all of them and probably listened to almost all of them, which is, I mean, like, I don't know which one's better. Both fantastic.
I've been listening. I was listening this week.
So good.
And it's just, he's such a good reader. It's just, it's remarkable.
Yeah. It's like you didn't think his words could get better, but then they do when he reads them out loud. Yeah.
You write about in the book getting the opportunity to meet him and almost chickening out. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? So
I was reading one of his books, and I don't remember if it was a New York Times piece or what it was. It was like a culture diary, basically. So it was like, what are you reading, watching, listening to? And I was reading Best of Me, and I was talking about that. And I got an email from one of my agents that was like, David Sedaris' team reached out. He reads whatever you did every day, weekend, whatever it was, and wanted to like write you a note to say thank you for talking about his book, which like would have been enough.
Totally.
I was like, this is, even just getting this email, even if he never wrote to me, like that's enough. And growing up in Hollywood, I don't get very starstruck easily just because I was so exposed to like these very famous people from a young age and came to learn that they were all just like people. But I'm so starstruck by authors, I think because they've been so important to me.
Yeah.
And because they're not, we kind of mythologize authors, right? Because for the most part, we don't like, they're often not super public facing figures, and they've created these worlds that we have these very intimate relationships with. So I just was like overwhelmed by the knowledge he even wanted to write to me. And then he did. And then I asked him to write an essay for my first book, and he said yes. And again, like all of these steps like would have been, I was just dying at all of this happening. And then I was shooting season 2 of Flight Attendant in LA, and he knew I was there, and he wrote me and asked if I wanted to have breakfast with him. And I said yes. And then like, it was like a month or so before he came. So I freaked out for a month about like what to wear and what I wanted to say and how to not act weird. And then the day arrived, and he was staying at the Four Seasons, and he asked me to have breakfast with him there. And I got there way too early and went into the bathroom and then was like, I can't. Like I physically can't. Like I was so worried I was just gonna like do something so weird or embarrassing.
What would that have been?
I don't
just
even
like melting
know.
Down or like,
I was like, am I gonna like shit my pants? Am I gonna say something inappropriate that like offends you? Am I gonna...
Seems pretty like hard to offend.
For 1000%.
Like actually would prefer to be offended.
For sure.
But I still understand.
I mean, my anxiety is not reasonable, right? Or like based in fact. But it was like...
Absolute. No.
It was but that's for sure accurate. Like he probably would have been delighted.
If
I had shat my pants at breakfast, he would have been like, this is fantastic, let's do it again.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
That didn't happen. I spent like 45 minutes freaking out in the bathroom, and then we had a wonderful breakfast, and Hugh was there, which was very helpful. And then he wrote me an email after and told me that I had very good manners, which I was like, yeah. I was both so like honored that he'd said that, and then I was like, wait, is that a euphemism for something? Or like maybe not a compliment coming from you? To your point?
Have you been told, like, what are your, like, have you been, I mean, you seem like you have good manners, but like, it's not, like,
that wouldn't be like,
not the
that wouldn't be the takeaway?
No, not essence, but that, I just don't think about things like that, but maybe he is more of a man of manners than we are privy to. You know, we don't you said we mythologize these people.
So true.
We recently had Sarah Jessica Parker on, which was amazing, and she was talking about the amount she thinks about Donna Tartt and what her life is actually like. Like Sarah Jessica was like, I find it embarrassing. Like I'm embarrassed by how much I think about Donna.
I get it.
But it is like, you know, they give us these things, and then some people are a lot more public facing and do the interviews, but like some are just like, here's the work, and like go bye.
For sure.
You're getting nothing from Donna.
I was just at a shoot before this, and we were looking at the photographer's bookshelves, and I was like, oh my God, I should have picked Secret History. I can't believe I didn't.
Sarah Jessica picked Goldfinch. I'm a much more Secret History girl.
Same.
It's so good.
I mean, it's a perfect book.
They've tried so many times to make it a movie. Do you think it just, I
think it's correct. I think that like maybe the book gods are like, no. I think there are some things, absolutely. And like often there are things we can do off the page that just elevate what's happening there. And I think there are some things that like need to not be touched.
Do you want any of Eve's work to be adapted?
Yes and no. I mean, they've been trying to do that for so long.
No, I mean, that's why I ask. Yeah.
I was actually given Eve's, the way that I came to discover her, this amazing producer was attempting to adapt her works into a television series. And so she had them, and I had like a general meeting with her, and she was like, I think that you would like this author. And she gave me Slow Days, Fast Company.
Wow.
And I was like, mind blown.
That's a gift.
Maybe the only thing that I think potentially would be her novel, Sex and Rage.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of her, but also very much a fictionalized character.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Her tone would be so hard to get right.
So, have you ever seen Play It As It Lays?
No.
The movie? Impossible. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not.
Some things just don't.
They just don't work.
Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. And like, that's okay.
And that's
we
okay.
We don't need to adapt everything. We can just like come up with original ideas and make those into movies.
Not everything has to be IP based.
True story.
I said it, not you. So, reading your memoir, as I was listening to Sedaris, I was thinking about his influence on you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a section that you... Here, I'm going to pull it out. This is actually not... This is a not dummy book, but I wrote down the...
Oh my God. Okay, amazing.
I just like the way you set this up. This is such a funny thing you wrote, and the way you set it up, like... You know, I think about Sedaris, I think about it like Russian nesting dolls. Like, the joke just keeps coming.
That's such a good way to describe his writing. That's so accurate.
And I thought that, actually, you know what, if you wouldn't mind, I think you should read it. But I don't know how we want to do, if we want to like pretend it's in the book, but...
We don't have to if you write it down.
You know what, let's just be honest. Let's be honest with the audience. Let's just show him behind the curtain. The way you set this up is so funny to me.
Oh my God, I just read this. I'm reading the book on tape right now, and I just read this essay the other day. And I was like, oh, this guy. Do you know who Kurt Vonnegut is? I nod tentatively, even though, of course, I know who Kurt Vonnegut is. He pauses for dramatic effect, I assume. And then he says, I fucked his daughter, too. He's still inside me, if you can really call it that. His dick is the size of a lipstick.
It's just, that's a Russian nesting doll. It's just the way that, like, the Vonnegut is funny. Your comprehension of it is funny, and then we learn we were having sex, and then we learn his dick is small, and it was a perfect thing.
I'm so pleased you enjoyed it.
It was, enough to write it down, pen to paper.
I love it.
So thank you for that. But that was when I was like, oh, I feel Sedaris here.
This is the nicest compliment I think anyone could ever give me. So thank you.
I mean, it's not as nice as him telling you that you have great manners, but I can try.
We think. We're not sure.
We're not sure.
We can't get inside his head.
And
we don't want to.
We don't want to.
We don't want to.
We don't want to.
Mm-mm.
Another book you picked today is The Heart's Invisible Furies. Mm-hmm. Tell me about why you wanted to talk about that one.
So I sort of released myself from this, like, I think a lot of me reading fiction like, maybe per my dad's influence, 1980, whatever, was also part of like some sort of guilt or shame that I had of not going to college.
Yeah.
That I have like since totally let go of. But I think there was some insecurity that I didn't feel smart enough growing up. And so I feel like I tried to mask that with being like, I'm going to read the great novels of our time, which like was wonderful, except, you know, I would also do things like one summer I was like, I'm gonna read Moby Dick, and it was the most torturous summer of my life. I was like, I fucking hate this book, but I made myself finish it because I thought I had to, or like needed to say I'd read it. That whatever it is, like 150 pages where he just talks about a whale skeleton. You haven't read it, don't do it. It's terrible. It's really not good. It's not enjoyable. I found the writing bad. Hot take, maybe I'll get canceled for this.
He's going to come for you. He's still alive.
For sure going to come for me. Or the whale will. I don't know which one. But I hated it. And I was like, wait, why am I doing this to myself? I can't remember what it was that sort of broke that spell. But I started reading, you know, things like David Sedaris. And then one summer, because it's hard for me when I'm in the middle of shooting to read anything that requires a ton of brain power, because my brain is just so consumed with learning lines.
Yeah.
So one summer I read Harry Potter. I like went back. I'd never read it.
I've only read like the first 2.
I was like, I'm gonna go back to like my childhood roots of reading magical books, and I reread like Phantom Tollbooth. I read just some like kind of childhood escapist novels. I reread I always forget the full title. The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. About the kids who like.
I loved that when I was little.
That book when I was little.
I can't remember the exact title,
it's so long.
Loved
it's like Mrs. something with an F.
I can look it up.
Okay, great. Anyways,
let's see. Let's Google
if you want. And I think,
like a mid Google.
Who doesn't love a mid?
Mixed Up Files.
It's like Mrs.
Yeah,
Fritz or Sally will know.
It's so okay. It's so good and it's so worth it. From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler.
Yes. Okay. There is an F in there. That book is fantastic, and and it's granted. Like I went back, I guess, in time for a lot of those, but it wasn't as serious. And then I was like, well, who is imposing this weird rule that I have to like only read from the canon? I was like, oh, me on myself. Why? And so I started to be like, yes, after 1995, there are still like great authors who have written amazing books that will enrich my mind. And I started letting myself explore all of those and then started just like gobbling them up. And a couple that like really sort of knocked me on my ass. I read The Great Believers.
I haven't. I need to. I hear it's so good.
So incredible. So heartbreaking. And I read Heart's Invisible Furies. And that book took me on I knew basically nothing about it when I picked it up. Mm-hmm. But the journey that it takes you on, it starts out when this guy is literally inside of his mother's stomach. Have you read it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
I read it 2 years ago.
And
it's the way I think about it is I kind of, and like, I'm going to give you like a theory and you're going to tell, like it's a hot take, but I don't know if like you might not agree and it might be like half baked. I kind of feel like you have like a choose your fighter between A Little Life, Goldfinch, and Heart's Invisible Furies. Like which one resonates for you? Because they all feel very like Dickens, like Charles Dickens, modern day, trauma, all these things. But like, and I love to see like the Hearts is the one for you.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But I don't know if this is like me, like having been doing this for a while and thinking about these books all together.
I see what you mean. I mean, I think in terms of modern fiction.
Yeah, like modern,
Like that's the first time I'd read what I would refer to as like a sweeping book.
I think that's the thing. Like you're with someone pretty much for their
entire life.
Hardships, family stuff, romantic stuff, like like everything, addiction, pain, like those three to me like are so sweet. I mean, I think sweeping is the perfect word.
And I think that's what caught me so off guard and also like resonated so deeply was just the journey of this man's entire life and how beautifully and unabashedly that story is told. And that book rocked me. Yeah. Like, finishing that book, I sobbed so hard. And there hadn't been a piece of literature that had like, I don't know, it sort of felt like it pulled my heart out of my chest.
Yeah.
In a really long time, I hadn't felt that.
And there's it's so many years, so many phases of his life.
I mean, it's incredible. And like the layers to that character, the tracking that it takes to write a character that's that dynamic from essentially inception to death is like, I mean, it's such a feat. The story is so beautiful in and of itself, and then to like pull out to a 60,000 foot view and just like the artistry of that writing is so impressive.
I love, and I can't remember his name right now, but when they basically adopt the boy, like that is just such that tug at my heartstrings.
I get it. Same.
No, it's really, I feel like I read it so fast. It was just very, propulsive. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's the way, you've read Little Life as well?
I haven't.
It hit for me because I was 22 and I was like, had just moved to New York and I was working in book publishing and it was the hot book. And like, I love it. Like, I love A Little Life.
It's funny. I had a writer friend of mine. I couldn't decide if I wanted to read it or not. There was like a lot of buzz around it, but a lot of people were just talking about how deeply traumatic it was.
Gratuitously so.
Yeah, and this writer friend of mine had just finished it, and she was like, I think it's too far. I think we as writers have a responsibility to our audience to like not put them through. You shouldn't take them that far. And I think it's unfair because like people are opening their hearts and their minds to you. Like reading a book is such a vulnerable state. Mm-hmm. So you're basically like, here's my imagination, take it where you want it to go. And she was like, I think it's too far. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to read it.
I remember again being 22 and like having to listen to like really heavy like pump up rap after reading it to like get myself out, like just like completely. But I think that is a strength of Heart's Invisible Furies, is that like you experience the full range of human emotion, but you're not completely out to sea.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In a way that I really appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, that book rocked me, but I didn't feel like taken advantage of.
And that's, I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I think if I read it now at 32, A Little Life, I think I would have a very different.
You'd be like, no, thank you.
I would just be like, oh, I don't have to like, it just like self-flagellate.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
like
it's not necessary.
For experience art.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your book.
Sure.
Does this make me funny? How was the writing experience for you?
It was challenging. It was really fun at times and like very cathartic. But it's interesting. As an actor, there's this, I'm sure, protective function that happens when I'm working that I forget that people can consume what I've done.
Oh, interesting.
Like it just doesn't, like it doesn't, it's not part of the equation.
That's a gift.
I think it's not something I've ever done on purpose. I think it's just a way my mind is like, if you want to go to the places you need to go to, we have to forget that this will be available for public consumption. Yeah. And it's much harder to do that when you write a book because the editing process is so involved. And I hated it.
Yeah.
I am not precious about my writing at all. Like, I basically, to my wonderful editor, Meg, I was just like, take it, do whatever you want with it, just don't make me look at it again. And obviously that wasn't an option. So the writing process itself was actually like very enjoyable. And then once we got into the process of editing, that was really challenging for me.
Even now, I've been writing professionally for 10 years and it's just like, it's sensitive. It's just like a lot of feel. Like, it's just like, do you not agree? You don't feel that way?
No, I totally understand that. I think it was less that and more having to have my work reflected back to me.
Yeah.
Like having to, maybe this is a better description. My husband always says that I shoot from the hip.
Okay. Like
he comes from the theater and he loves working in the theater. He loves it because to him, it's like he's a prepper. He's a researcher. He wants to like dig into something and explore all of its corners and like look at it under a microscope. And I come from like, I really came up, I'd worked before Girls, but that was like my first and longest, like really serious job. Mm-hmm. And the way we made that show was like fly by the seat of your pants. Like they were writing and rewriting and changing and cutting like in real time. We were constantly improvising. And so I learned to create in this very like agile place and I love it. Like that's where I feel most comfortable is like not knowing where the ball is going to fall and being like, I'm ready to try and catch it wherever it does.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I think that's not really available to you when you're editing.
No.
That's not, you can't edit like that.
No.
So writing feels like that to me, but editing is the opposite end of the spectrum, and that it's hard for me to make my mind work that way.
It's kind of like the cliche Heming quote of like, write drunk, edit sober. Like you can completely let yourself go 1000%. In the writing process, but then you have to like sober up.
That's exactly how it felt. And I didn't like it.
Well, it leads me to another part of this book that I wrote out, which is you talk about Shoshana in this way of which that she was basically a person you loved that felt a part of you, but also like an entire being outside of you too. And I don't know, the way you spoke about the tenderness you feel and the connection. I was hoping you could read that part for us because It was really, really beautiful. Sorry, my handwriting is so poor.
Oh my God, it's no worse than mine, which is so bad. She was both a part of me and a person outside of me that existed on her own, who I loved and was in a relationship with. When she broke up with Ray, I wanted to show up at her apartment with wine and takeout and hugs. When she lost her virginity, I wanted to take her out to celebrate. When she sounded off at the beach house, I wanted to call her and tell her I was proud of her. I wanted to visit her in Japan. I wanted to congratulate her on her engagement. Every experience she had felt wholly and utterly real to me. It's true.
I mean, you grew up with her, playing her, but I think, even like watching now Lena Dunham's press tour for Too Much, who I absolutely love. Like the fondness is not there for Hannah in the same way. She's like, I don't miss Hannah, but we all like Shoshana, I think like, it's a beautiful connection because she was the best girl.
It's funny. I think so, but like, I love her like she was a sister to me. That's like how she feels, which is so weird because I read about this. I don't feel that way about the characters that I play are not three-dimensional in the way that she was. And I think that's a testament to our writers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to joke that she was like, kind of the moral compass of she was the one that was always like maybe that's a little, maybe not. Well, everybody else was just sort of like, I think she was sort of the one who wasn't as hedonistic as the rest. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say they were doing anything wrong. Like that's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's like, right? That we all have to explore in order to figure out who we are and how to become adults. But I feel like she kind of came out a little bit more mature than the rest of them.
What do you think Shoshana's favorite book would be?
Oh my God, that's such a good question.
Because I kind of don't know that the girls from Girls read.
I mean, I feel like Shoshana's favorite book is either like Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella or it's like Joseph Campbell. Like it's got to live in like one of two camps.
I think Ray got her into Russian lit.
Oh my God. I could totally see that. It's like the Brothers Karamazov.
Something like that. Like she just got one day, she was sleeping at that apartment and like she woke up early and
she was bored.
And just was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
She was like, this is cute. She's like very cute, very demure.
I love I was, because like now I think we use books so like in a positive way. Like books are used so much more as props in shows, but like I really, other than like Shoshana reading the book about what's the like in the pilot where it's these girls, we're the ladies. I don't remember another book ever being featured in the show, despite Hannah being a writer.
That's such a great call. I honestly don't know.
There's probably a Goodreads list somewhere of like a Reddit thread of every book featured on Girls.
But it definitely is.
We'll have to find it.
Wait, I'm not gonna think so hard about what her favorite book is.
If there's alternatives, I'll have to.
Oh my God. Great question.
I think on that, thank you so much for being here today. This was such a treat. This was so fun.